Disappeared.
Welcome to Harlan County, Kentucky, November 25th, 19. Thanksgiving Day, the day Georgia Darlene Nolan disappeared, never to be heard from by her family again. Georgia Darlene Nolan vanished without a trace, leaving her family with many unanswered questions. It was a typical Thanksgiving day in southeast Kentucky, overcast, with temperatures in the mid-50s. Families gathered together all throughout the country, but for Georgia's children, their lives would never be the same. On that day, Georgia left her brother Sonny's home with her estranged husband, Denver, claiming they were going to grab a Coke at a nearby drive-in restaurant. However, she never returned, and her immediate family was left without any explanation. At the time of her disappearance, Georgia was going through her second divorce. Her first husband's family had been told the day after she actually disappeared that she had exited Denver's vehicle on the interstate between Kentucky and Indiana during a heated argument. Georgia's family, the Mitchells, and the Pruitts were estranged from each other during this time span due to the bitter divorce, and never had the opportunity to compare stories until years later. By that time, all evidence or information was considered tainted in the investigation. Denver Patrick Nolan was never questioned about her whereabouts or his involvement in her disappearance. Let's rewind back now. That Georgia and Denver were supposedly heading back to Chicago. They took their youngest daughter to Denver's mother's house. No one who lived in the area at that time can remember seeing anyone other than Denver in the car at the time the daughter was dropped off. He was alone. Shortly after her disappearance, Denver filed child abandonment papers on Georgia and wrote his mother's name. This gave her temporary custody of the children while Denver was working in Chicago. Then, in 1980, Denver returned to Harlan and officially filed for divorce. Why wasn't Denver ever questioned? Georgia and Denver had a troubled marriage prior to her disappearance. She separated from her husband shortly before the last of her 4 children was born. Denver came to Kentucky a few months later and they decided to reconcile. They had dropped their youngest child, then 2 months old, off at her husband's mother's house and began the journey back to Chicago. They were on their way there when Georgia disappeared. Later on, her husband gave different accounts to others as how they got separated. He initially said she disappeared near Indianapolis, Indiana. Decades later, he told another story, saying he and Georgia stopped at a gas station in Indianapolis, and she called a strange woman who came and picked her up. In 2008, law enforcement received a tip that led them to the excavating in Loyal, Kentucky. Apparently, around the date of Georgia's disappearance, Denver's sister replaced her septic tank at his request, and a witness claimed to have seen them throw a large bag into the hole. However, law enforcement didn't want to tear out the septic system based on suspicion alone, and they refused to use any ground-penetrating radar. In 2009, Denver's sister refused to comply with the EPA safety guidelines and switched to city sewer, which has only added to the suspicion surrounding the septic tank. It's been over 45 years since Georgia Darlene Nolan disappeared, and her family is still searching for answers. If you have any information that could assist in solving this disappearance, please contact Kentucky Intelligence and Missing Persons. Here are some known personal details about Georgia. Georgia Darlene Nolan. If you have any information on the disappearance of Georgia, please contact one of these numbers. Thank you for watching. We hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Disappeared.